Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Morning, Darwin.
Good morning to you, Anita, and welcome to the dog days of August.
It has been hot, hasn't it?
Well, in New York, it's been wonderful this summer.
Really?
The crops are coming in beautifully. I say that, I know it sounds like a joke, but New Yorkers are taking to gardening. They're planting stuff in vacant lots. And we've had, unlike California, we've had great rainfall and wonderful sunshine, so we'll be harvesting the crops.
Do you have a garden at your house?
New York City.
Do you have a garden? Because you have a lot of room there. Are you doing that?
Not so much in my. I do benefit from a garden in New Jersey.
Yes.
I have a deal with a farmer, so I can get fresh produce, but I have to drive over the bridge to Jersey to get it. Because,
well, that's still good.
Farmland.
So,
but anyway,
tell us what we're going to do this morning.
I wanted to tell you, I went to bed last night and left the television on, and when I woke up, the film was on called The Ceremony with Lawrence Harvey, and it was set in Tangier and on the coast, northern coast of Morocco, and that brought back a flood of memories for me because I used to have a base, a beautiful apartment in the city of Tangier, and it was the beginning of my long 50 career span as a travel writer. Now, I want to say something about one of the advantages of being a war baby or a baby boomer is that we got to see the world. And I was I did so many travel books, and I was in on the golden age of travel, and we thought it would just go on and on. Unfortunately, that age is over, and those of us who were born at a certain time were allowed to see the world, and today you can get killed if you go to most of the countries or many of the countries that I visited, and it is a wicked shame. It really, really is.
So you really, and you talk about your travel so much, and of course you were younger then too, and travel was different. I know that stewardesses looked different, but it wasn't as dangerous. But now you have all that as your experience, and so tell me what you're doing other than writing books that making you happy.
Well, I'm finishing my book on Bill and Hillary, and it's now I've written about two first ladies, Nancy Reagan and what was the other one, Jackie Kennedy.
Oh, right.
And of course, nothing is better than writing about Jackie Kennedy. I mean, she to me, she was one of the most fascinating women of the 20th century. And but the Bill and Hillary story is completely different from. And if you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Until you read the book. It's an amazing accumulation of, there's never been anything like it, and this is not really what I plan to talk about, but they were really the products of the Internet, and suddenly everybody has an opinion, and oh my God, you should see what they post about me. It's like in the old days, you could write a letter to them. When I grew up in Miami, you could write a letter to the Miami Herald, or chances are you would never really have a forum for your views. But today, almost anyone can be a critic and can go after you or attack you, and they do. It's a very venomous world out there. But
yeah, it
never
is.
before has a first lady been subjected to stories. I mean, you could walk into the supermarket and look on the tabloids that while Hillary was in the White House, she gave birth to an E.T., like a space baby from outer space. And the the White House covered up the birth of this alien child. Now, come on. No one, no First Lady, certainly not Ida McKinley or Dolly Madison, has ever suffered stories like that. It's just an incredible amount of material that I've had to wade through, tons and tons, to really come up with what I think is a very riveting story. And
but Darwin, wait, I want to go back to what you just said. How do those magazines or newspapers or whatever they're called, how do they get away with things like that? I just don't understand
that. They don't always. They don't. Many of them are sued. They can be sued. The most famous, the thing that really began it, was Robert Harrison's Confidential in the 50s, and eventually they were sued out of existence. Now, some of this, but you almost become immune to libel suits if you are Hillary Clinton, for example, or even Donald Trump, to go on the other side. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, he sues all the time, but it's very hard to libel Donald Trump because everything has been written about him. I think I told you once that a judge in California, when Elizabeth Taylor sued, the judge told her, "You can't sue. Everything in the world has been written about you. You're beyond suing for damages at this point." They do. The thing about it is, I want to also take up for the tabloids. I know many of them, of the writers and editors, and they always feature my stories. Many of the stories that they break are actually true. Those are combined with the what Hillary herself said. Oh my God, they've done another edition of the Globe about a man born with the head of a cow. And they do those stories, and they're utterly ridiculous. And then often they break through on a major story. They pick up stories before the national media will run them, and so it's a mixed blessing. But the point is, they sell, and as long as they sell, they will be published. And
it's because it's right there at the line when you're checking out, and you can't help but look at it.
Yes, and but the thing about that for me on the Hillary and Bill story is I wanted to go behind the scenes to what was really going on, and it's like a great drama. You know, the betrayals, the lies, and much of their troubles stem from their own actions. You know, had they not done such and such, such and such would not have happened, and then the enemies they made, the enemies who wanted to destroy them. So my book is not a pro-Clinton or an anti-Clinton. I've taken it from the position of a reporter reporting on what happened behind the scenes. And it's sort of a fascinating journey of my own discovery. I thought I knew practically everything about them that could be known, but when I started going through all these boxes and boxes of material that I combined, it's just amazing. In fact, I think in the final analysis, all of them look bad, meaning the Clinton people and the people who went after them. It's just a wicked, horrible American story that had never happened before. Never happened before. Of course, there was Nixon and Watergate, but nothing has equaled the Bill and Hillary story. And I will be glad to be done with it because it's been a horrible journey.
Wow, interesting.
Well, it's fascinating what I've come up with. It's utterly fascinating, but to have all those. First, my ultimate conclusion is after what Hillary has went through in the White House, why would she ever want to go back there? But she does. It's amazing what people who want power and of course there's a great temptation to want to go down in the pages of history, and if she wins, she will go down in the pages of history. Now, speaking of the tabloids, I just finished a story that involved Hillary, but it may be true, it may not be true, but it seems that Angelina Jolie, who is involved with Brad Pitt and all their children, is petitioning Hillary, if she gets the nomination, to let Miss Jolie run as her vice president.
Really?
Yes. Now, as I said,
wow,
that could be true. I mean, it's not beyond Miss Jolie. I mean, that would not be the most outrageous thing that she ever did, and it seems that Miss Jolie is very interested in becoming a political figure one day. She could run for the Senate. She wouldn't be the first actor in Hollywood who ever ran for a. I think there was one called, what was his name, Ronald Reagan, and so it wouldn't be beyond the.
Well, Schwarzenegger, for heaven's sake, Schwarzenegger's was governor. That was a big thing.
Yes, and he wanted to be president.
I know.
He would have run had he not been born in Austria.
Right.
Although other people have run for president, who've been, from out of the country. John McCain was born in the Panama Canal area, and Ted Cruz is running from Texas, and he was born in Canada, and Mitt Romney's father ran for president, and he was born in Mexico to American parents. So I think that strict rule, you had to be born within the limits of 50 states, isn't always followed. Hillary and Bill, though, were born in America. And
well, let me ask you one question.
Born in New York.
Let me ask you one question about that, and you may not want to give it away, but in your work, I know that you know this. Was Hillary always aware of Bill's flirtations, or was that obvious? One of the problems that they had in their marriage? Yes, she was, and from the beginning, and amazingly, she had to accept that as part of the deal. When they met in 1970, they made an agreement, and the agreement was that she would stand by him. I know she once attacked Tammy Wynette for the famous song "Stand by Your Man," but even though she attacks the song and the sentiment, that is exactly what she has done. And the agreement was made in 1970, when they were still in law school, was that one day he would run for president, and she would support him for 2 terms, which would be 8 years, and he would then throw his support behind her, and she had hoped to become president in 2001, and she certainly tried in 2008, and now she will try again. And so they made that agreement, and now there were many times when they didn't stick to that agreement. For example, I have the data now on he really fell in love with another woman, and I don't want to go into her name now, although it's all in the book. And he actually wanted to divorce Hillary and marry this other woman. Somehow, that was the biggest test. He was governor then of Arkansas, and that was the biggest test of their relationship, and it survived. However, I found that he still carried on with this other woman for 2 years after he said he'd broken up with her. He was Bill is excuse me, it's early in the morning. Bill is a naughty boy. And he's a naughty boy.
But, I met this woman who wrote a book about sex in Dixie, she called it. And she wrote about the bubba, like when I went to Key West, I didn't know what the word bubba meant. But all the men down in Key West called each other bubba. I don't know if that term is still used in Florida.
No, but what does that mean?
Well, it's sort of like my good buddy. My pal, my bloke, as they would say in England.
Okay.
And so this woman wrote an entire book about the Bubba boys of the South. It's a very fascinating story. And so Bill was a product of that culture. Today you could be sued for sexual harassment, but when I was growing up in the South, men just openly propositioned women and chased after them and whistled at them in the street and made ludicrous propositions. I mean, it was the culture. I saw that in North Carolina. And as today they'll file a $65 million lawsuit against you for doing that. But back then, that was what women were viewed as objects to be pursued. Nothing was off the table. And I think Bill was very much a product of that. And also, let's be blunt, he is what is known as a sex addict.
Yeah. No, now, is he still?
There are reports that he still, I think he's slowed down now, It's not 1974 in Little Rock, and he's slowed down now. But there are reports that he maintains his flirtatious activities, and Hillary, I think, just goes on her own way. She has her own agenda now. Good heavens, the woman has enough trouble right now running for president, and she just hopes that Bill keeps his scandals under wraps. I really didn't mean to talk about Bill and Hillary.
Oh, what were we supposed to be talking about this morning?
Oh, no, I was going to talk about I would love to talk about, I'm sure we'll talk about Bill and Hillary again in the future. No, I was going to talk about the advantage that baby boomers and war babies had, where we got to see the world, and how so much of the world now is just simply shutting down. For example, you wouldn't believe this, but there was a time that we did books on Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and so many places. You can be killed if you go there, and so many of the ancient places that I got to see are actually being destroyed. Civilizations that last for 2,000 years. They're just simply destroying ancient ruins of cities, and so for a man who was so involved in world travel for so many years, it's been very sad for me to see what happened. And also, I lived for 7 years. I didn't live there. I was traveling all the time in the city of Tangier. And from that, you could travel all over Africa. I often would go to Tunisia. In fact, I could drive to Tunisia, and now they're blowing up beaches and killing people in Tunisia, which is really ruining their tourist industry. Of course, as you know, I used to live in Key West, and now CNN and news, there was someone that was going to put a bomb on the beach in Key West. So
yes, that was pretty scary. I couldn't believe that.
It just shows that you don't have to be in Tunisia maybe to have experienced the bomb. So in a way, although we're older now, I was going to say that the baby boomers and the war babies after World War II, they got to open up and see and do things that is now would be denied to a present generation. You can still go to the Caribbean. Well, of course you can. Today you don't know if you walk out the door if you're coming back. And so
That's
it's
true.
a whole different world that we've inherited now, and so I'm very grateful that I had the wonderful. Now it was all it wasn't all a cakewalk. For example, I got into a lot of trouble. I was arrested a few times as a spy.
Really?
In the Middle East. And, it was years later that I found out why I was arrested. It's because the story, our rival guidebook series at Fromer was Fodor. You've heard of Fodor.
Yes.
Well, if you're in Afghanistan, they make no difference between Fromer and Fodor. They both start with an F. And it was later revealed that many guidebook writers for Fodor were actually working as spies for the CIA. Isn't that amazing? And so I said, my God, that's why I was arrested. Because if you're in Islamabad, are they going to make a distinction between a reporter for Fromer and a reporter for Fodor? The CIA never came to me and offered me money to be a spy for them.
Interesting.
But I was arrested a few times, so thank God that I didn't go, like people now in Iran. A journalist can get thrown into prison for years, and but again, everything is sort of more dangerous. But for a journalist, though, such as I am, and a biographer such as I am, I'm just so grateful to have all these fascinating people to write about. I will never do a book on Meryl Streep. I think she's the greatest film actress in the world today. But just between us, I find her private life a bit dull.
She has a lovely daughter.
Away from her talent.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I have all these wonderful, almost daily people come to me with ideas like, oh, why don't you do a book on so-and-so? My latest offer is which I will not do, is a book on Donald Trump. But he's one of those fascinating characters.
Excuse me. So why wouldn't you do it? What is there a reason?
Yes, because I have lined up. I've already committed to a very active agenda, and no, I might have done it in a different day, but right now, what is the expression? My plate is full.
No, I understand. No, but wait a minute. But if you would do it, though, you mean if you had the time? Yes. Oh,
yes,
okay.
Because I think he is worthy of he has been the subject of 2 or 3 books, but they didn't quite get the full story. And then, of course, he's making the story right now,
right?
As he goes to Scotland. Now, people in Scotland, I used to, for many, many years, I wrote a book on Scotland, and I just adore the people there, and they have wonderful opinions about what Donald Trump is doing to their country.
I know. I heard some of it. Right.
They're just wonderful. I think our time is rapidly.
It is.
I
hate that. I know. I wish I had another. Oh, we have 2 more minutes. They said. Okay, keep going. But I guess my question though is: so you are now. When do you expect to have your book finished on Hillary and Bill?
The deadline is August 20th.
Really?
For an October publication. I don't know. I heard that Nancy Reagan did not like my book on Love Triangle, Ronald Reagan, Jane Wyman, and Nancy Davis. I heard from sources that she thought that I told far too many stories about, and she didn't like the prominence I gave to her former rival, Jane Wyman.
Oh.
The Reagan Museum has virtually wanted to eliminate, Reagan was married to Jane Wyman for 8 years.
Right.
And if you visit the Reagan Museum, you would never know that.
Oh, is that right? Well,
I think Nancy has done a little editing of the museum exhibit. But bless her, I hope she lives forever. Okay.
Yeah, so what is it? And we only have a second or two. What's your next book after Hillary?
I've signed to do an anniversary edition of James Dean, who died
Oh, my goodness. Now, that'll be interesting.
I have accumulated stories on him over the years that have never been told, and so I'm doing an anniversary.
Oh, my. Well, Darwin, thank you. I
you
am so...
remember him, don't you, Anita?
Oh, I do. I remember him so well. I see his picture right now. He and Marlon Brando, the sex guys. I remember those two.
We're admitting our age.
It's okay. So thank you, Darwin. Goodbye, and have a great day, and I'll call you. I'll talk to you later.
And have a great show, Anita.
All right. Bye, Darwin. Thank you.